insurance is a very strong instrument. Unfortunately, uh, the penetration of insurance in Pakistan is one of the lowest, not only globally, but also in this region as well. So our non-life penetration is, say, less than 0.3% of the GDP, which when you compare with the global averages, which is upward of 7.5%, so it's extremely, extremely low. And effectively what this means is a overwhelming majority of our population, say around 98, 99%, does not have any financial protection available. So whenever a calamity of this nature hits, there's no recourse. And people involved unfortunately fall below the poverty line. Why this is the case? That next logical question that you asked for, and there's a number of reasons, a number of challenges, and I will come to some of them later. Trust is one area that I think you mentioned. Yes, that's one critical area where people do not have the full confidence, because insurance is basically a promise, a contract and a promise that if such an event happens, then the contract will help you recover from that. And that trust factor is unfortunately not there. And I tell you, it's not because of lack of addressal of that contract, because if you look at the numbers, you see that according to the SSCP insurance report, in 2024, the industry together, I'm talking of life and non-life combined, they underwrote a premium of, premium and contribution of 650 billion rupees. Whereas the benefits and claims that were paid in 2024 by the industry, again combined, was close to 599 billion. So in that sense, almost 600 billion, was paid out. But I think where the industry lacks very well is in terms of, marketing that, for lack of a better word, or announcing that this, I think, you'll hardly see any, ads or any campaigns of insurance companies being run to educate the people that, such and such payment were made. So that's one area. And the other area is, I think, the process. That is an area where I think the industry needs to look at. Maybe the process currently is very cumbersome. That when I say the process, I'm meaning that from the time the event happens till the time a settlement happens, if it's going to take months or in certain cases even weeks, I think that may not be good enough. I think that's an area where the industry needs to look at to see how this process can be curtailed so that the payment is done at the earliest. So that is when. So these are the two areas that I think addresses the trust deficit.
So, 650 billion worth of premium in 2024, of which nearly 600 billion were doled out as insurance claims. So, yes, one would expect people to believe in insurance, but when you look at popular media, when you look at movies, the insurance is always the bad guy, just like the banker is the bad guy. But then Pakistan does not have a very high rate of financial inclusion. People do not have access to credit lines. One of the reasons being lack of documentation. And then, if you're talking about Gul Plaza, they are part of the informal economy. They're not paying taxes. They do not want to pay taxes, which is why they are not documented. How would you offer such a sector insurance without documentation?
So, if you ask me, that's the challenge. That's one of the reasons why I think the insurance penetration is extremely low, especially in the SME and the retail sector. There are a number of challenges. There's religious considerations, there's economics as well, there's a cultural, of course, issue as well. Awareness is one of them. I think financial majority, I think the segment which is mostly involved in the SME are not financially mature enough to understand the intricacies of any financial contract. So, and documentation. Documentation is, I think, a very major pain point. There are various estimates. Some say that maybe the size of our informal economy is perhaps as big as our formal economy as well. And most of these areas, especially when you talk of shops, agriculture, retail, they are in the informal segment. And documentation is on a conventional level, that goes to the heart of any financial contract, and insurance is no different, right? So if claim happens, then you have to obviously establish the presence of assets. from where it was procured, how it was sold, the profits and stuff like that. So yes, that's a very major, I would say, pain point or stumbling blocks where people are not very keen in procuring insurance, and frankly, the industry. When I say the industry, I mean ourselves included, has up till now not been able to address some of these pain points, right? And I feel that unless these pain points are to be addressed, we will continue to remain in the same, position. So one way of looking at it is to wait for things to improve, for things to become documented, for risk management to improve, right? For the awareness to improve, and that may take perhaps another 30 years, and we will have several Kul plazas in the wake. And I don't think that's a very, that's the right way to go. I think what the industry needs to come up with is, having identified the pain points, are there any solutions? You know, can we design even a basic product, which can address some of the pain points that we discussed, the trust factor as well as the documentation factor. I think this is where work needs to happen, and the industry, the leadership that is currently there, I think they needs to put their heads together to see if something can be done to address this pain point, and not wait for everything to fall in order for the insurance penetration to improve.
So when I have bankers on my show, and one of the questions I always ask the bankers is, see, most of the credit goes to the government. The government is the biggest borrower, which is why the private sector gets squeezed out. Their point is, see, if we lend to the SME sector, what legal redressal do we have? Say somebody declares bankruptcy, you say, I cannot pay, what will I do? I had I'm at a business panel, somebody wrote this, one of the CEOs of the bank wrote this in this article, that he went to such a shop who had declared bankrupt. It didn't look like a shop that was going bankrupt. And then the shop next to it was paying the interest and all that. But then he saw, okay, my fellow retailer is declaring bankruptcy. Now he doesn't have to pay the same amount of interest. He's gotten a haircut. Why should I pay the full amount? And then there's no legal redressal to that. So given that ecosystem, there's not a lot of appetite for the SME sector for financial credit to the SME sector. Now, I looked at some of your numbers. I looked at your bottom line for the last few years, your profit after tax. And the profit after tax in 2022 was 1.5 billion. Currently, in 2024, it was 3.5 billion. So clearly, with your investments, everything, Jubilee Insurance is doing well. Why are you going after the SME sector? What is it in it for you?
So I think, what's in it for us is basically, the question is, do we want to continue the way we are and only have this insurance penetration of 0.3% and have more than 98% of the population outside this financial umbrella? But our decision is no.